I had already made up my mind. The divorce papers sat inside the glove compartment of my truck as I pulled into the parking lot outside my mother-in-law's house on a rainy Saturday afternoon. For months, my marriage to Emily had felt like it was slowly falling apart. We barely talked anymore, unless it was about bills, groceries, or whose turn it was to take the trash out. The laughter that once filled our small suburban home outside Columbus, Ohio, had disappeared, replaced by long silences that seemed impossible to break. Every time I tried asking Emily what was wrong, she'd smile weakly and insist she was just tired. But I didn't believe her anymore. She canceled date nights, avoided eye contact, and often stayed awake long after I had gone to bed. My mind filled the empty spaces with terrible possibilities. Maybe she'd stopped loving me. Maybe there was someone else. When she told me she was visiting her mother that afternoon, I decided it would be the last weekend before I ended everything. I planned to hand her the divorce papers that evening. As I walked toward the front porch, intending to surprise her, I noticed the front door wasn't fully closed. I raised my hand to knock but froze when I heard Emily's voice from inside. "I don't know how much longer I can hide it, Mom." Something in her tone stopped me cold. Her mother answered softly, "You don't have to carry this alone anymore." Emily took a shaky breath. "I see how exhausted David is after working 12-hour shifts. He keeps apologizing because he thinks he's failing me, but he's not. He's doing everything he can." My heart skipped. "I wanted to tell him months ago," she continued, her voice cracking. "But after the company laid people off and he started worrying about money every day, I couldn't add this on top of everything else." I stood perfectly still. "The treatments aren't working like we hoped," Emily whispered. "Treatments? If the doctors are right, I may need surgery sooner than expected." The words hit me like a freight train. I gripped the porch railing just to stay standing. I've been pretending to be distant, because if I let myself lean on him, he'll spend every dollar trying to fix me. He'll quit his job if he has to. That's who David is. She started crying. "I don't want him to lose everything because of me. I felt sick for months. I'd convinced myself my wife didn't love me anymore. All this time, she'd been trying to protect me." Without thinking, I pushed the door open. Emily looked up, her face instantly draining of color. "David..." Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Walked across the room and wrapped my arms around her before either of us could say another word. She collapsed against my chest, sobbing. "I'm sorry," she kept repeating. "I didn't want you to know." I pulled back just enough to look into her tear-filled eyes. "You thought I'd leave you to fight this alone?" She shook her head. "I thought you'd sacrifice everything." "I would." That's exactly why I couldn't tell you. For the first time in months, we stopped pretending. That afternoon lasted hours. Emily explained everything. Several months earlier, doctors had discovered a rare condition requiring expensive treatment. The outlook was hopeful, but there were no guarantees. She had hidden every appointment by scheduling them during lunch breaks or claiming she was running errands. Even the prescription bottles stayed locked inside a drawer at her mother's house. She had been carrying fear completely alone, and I had mistaken her silence for rejection when I finally admitted that I'd brought divorce papers with me. Emily stared at me in disbelief. "You were going to leave me?" I nodded slowly. "I thought you'd already left me emotionally." Instead of getting angry, she reached for my hand. "We've both been making decisions based on things we never talked about." She was right. That night, I threw the unsigned divorce papers into our fireplace, watching them burn felt like watching months of misunderstanding disappear with them. The following weeks weren't easy. We met with doctors together. We reorganized our finances, picked up overtime while Emily allowed me to attend every appointment. For the first time in a long time, we faced the future as partners instead of strangers living under the same roof. Some days were terrifying, others gave us hope. But no matter what happened, neither of us carried the burden alone anymore. Nearly a year later, Emily's surgery was successful. Recovery took months, but little by little, the woman I'd fallen in love with returned. not because she had ever disappeared, but because fear no longer controlled our lives. One evening, we sat on our back porch watching the sunset, coffee cups warming our hands. Emily smiled and asked, "Do you ever think about that day at my mom's house?" I laughed quietly. "Every week? If you hadn't overheard. Us, I know," she squeezed my hand. "We almost lost 16 years together because we stopped telling each other the truth." Looking back, I realized divorce hadn't nearly destroyed our marriage. Silence had. Love doesn't always disappear when a marriage feels broken. Sometimes it's buried beneath fear, pride, and the mistaken belief that protecting someone means shutting them out. The strongest relationships aren't built by people who never struggle. They're built by people who choose honesty before assumptions, conversation before conclusions, and each other before giving up. That choice saved our marriage, and it's one I'll never stop making.